All right, well, Rhonda, thank you so much for being here and being a part of Bennie Conversations. As you know, my name is Maas, and I'm from the class of 2014 at St. Ben's, and I'm the Leadership Annual Giving Officer at the College of St. Benedict. So first, just to have it off, I will have you introduce yourself.
Sure, my name is Rhonda Prasnicki Gaulke, and I graduated in '87 from St. Ben's with a math degree. I currently live in Woodbury, Minnesota.
Wonderful. So how do you see your liberal arts education playing out in your life now?
So just the study abroad with a math degree, not a lot of people did that. That was a very, that's the essence of a liberal arts education, right? And it wasn't required. And when I left school and I thought, oh, I'm going into actuary, and I really thought that's what I would do. I mean, since my sophomore year in college, I started taking exams, and I really thought I'd do that. And then when I got in the actual job and I didn't really like it, I thought, well, that's okay. I can leave this, and started looking for something else. And I was able to move from really a different career, like actuarial to audit to, project management, and then into IT. Like I don't meet a lot of people that can move around, but I think it was that liberal arts education and exposure to so many different types of things and experiences that led me to act courageously in leaving a career and doing something new, as well as having the skill set to really think more broadly. And so those are the things that I value now out of that liberal arts education that I didn't recognize right away.
Was there an extracurricular activity, whether it be a club, a sport, an experience, that you still see the impact from in your life?
Okay, not so much an extracurricular activity, but my time abroad. And so studying abroad in London in '85, when I got to St. Paul Companies and I had moved from actuarial into audit, they were starting a rotational assignment in London. And there were many of us in audit that were young. And so I applied like a dozen other people did. And I had been there before. And so I was selected to go. So I actually then worked abroad in London for a year. And it was, I mean, they told me, they were like, you were the only one who had experience, not only traveling abroad of the dozen people that applied, but specifically in London. We wanted it to be successful, and we knew there might be cultural things or whatever, and you had already lived there, so we saw the chance of success so much higher. So it was like directly attributable to my study abroad experience. So that's probably why I think about that one so much.
Yeah, definitely. That's incredible. So you talked about this a little bit already, but for the recording, so did you encounter any hardships in college?
Yes. My father lost his job, and okay, now this is where I start tearing up. And I was a sophomore. My sister was a senior, and we went to pay our bill for the upcoming semester, and they told us our bill had been covered. We were so happy. My family was happy. My parents were happy. And we said, all we have to do is get through this semester, and we'll get through the summer. My sister was graduating. We knew that my father would have another job, but our school was covered. So I think as a sophomore, it's what my senior in high school sister said, that's the school I'm going to go to. So then when my older sister graduated, there were still two of us there. But that help got our family over the hump of covering those really 2 full semesters. And we were just so grateful. And it's one of the reasons that I keep giving every single year.
How did that instance in that scenario, how did that shape your view of St. Ben's and like what the values of St. Ben's are?
Well, I tell this story now as I have friends who have kids going off to school, and I talk about St. Ben's, and they talk about, the University of Minnesota and Madison and all these great schools. And I think back to what prepared me as first generation college, right? So naive from a small town in northern Minnesota, low income, which I didn't know, until I got to school that we were low income. Like you're just like you don't even realize how big the world is, and how I got there and traveled abroad. St. Ben's really opened my eyes, and I think back to, what you talked about in the beginning of the mission or the vision or whatever, and acting courageously. Like, that was a courageous thing for me to do. I didn't get on an airplane before I got to college. Mm-hmm. But when I talk about that experience to other people, like they did not have that same experience. And so I really felt like the smaller environment, being in a women campus, but yet a co-ed educational system was the most valuable thing I could have experienced. And it was right for me. Mm-hmm. And I still attribute really a big chunk of my success to that. And then going to a school where they kind of fostered that independence, and acting courageously. And they were doing it way back in the 80s before you got the new motto. So
exactly.
So it might be the new motto in the last few years, but they've always done it. So I think it's very fitting. So.
We can actually jump to that question. So so the vision statement is to prepare women to think critically, lead courageously, and advocate passionately. Yeah. So that vision statement was actually crafted because Mary Hinton spent her first year as presidency listening. Yes. She listened to alumni, to students, to faculty, to staff, to the sisters. She has a very close relationship. And out of her listening, that is what she crafted. So from that, which of those three is the most meaningful to you?
Okay, so... Boy, I would probably say lead courageously. I think it's probably the closest for me, and it's not even always leading courageously. It's acting courageously. It's acting courageously when you're maybe not following the rest of the pack, and you have a different thought perspective, or you did something different. Sometimes acting courageously is like taking on more than maybe what you would like to, but it's making something better for somebody else. I know I get part of that from my parents, but I also know I get part of that from my time at St. Ben's, because that was a big part of being on campus, was giving back to others. As others gave back to me, now I give back myself. So probably acting courageously.
How are you shining in your life today?
Oh, I'm shining in so many ways. I think what St. Ben's gave me was an understanding of helping other people, and continuing that. And I think part of that all started when I got money from people to go to college.